You're on, Chris.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining UWSP's third virtual town hall meeting. This is to cover important topics related to the pandemic. Today, our focus is on face coverings and classroom cleaning. I'm Chris Richards, Vice Chancellor for University Advancement. I'll be serving as the moderator for today's session. Today, we'll hear from the following panelists before taking your questions. In the first section, Chancellor Bernie Patterson will speak, followed by Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, Al Thompson. Then Paul Hassler, Director of Facility Services, and Laura Bell, the Director of Enrollment Management. Following their comments, the group will take questions. The group will be expanded at that time to include additional panelists. I'll introduce them after the opening remarks. Let's start with Chancellor Patterson. The floor is yours, Bernie.
Thank you, Chris. Before we get started with the topics today that Chris introduced, I want to speak with you about another really important topic: social justice, equality, diversity, inclusivity, and Black Lives Matter. These issues may be even more important than COVID-19 when the school year starts in just a few weeks. We will conquer the pandemic. I'm sure we will. It's just a matter of time. But this country has been fighting the battle of social justice for over 240 years. And what we've seen play out recently on national TV is yet another reminder that we have so much more work to do to make things right. When the school year starts, we'll be engaging the Diversity Council, SGA Inclusivity Committee, the Center for Inclusive Teaching and Learning, the Office of Diversity and College Access, and over a dozen student organizations. But we didn't want to wait until September to get started. A small group, including Leslie Bernhagen and Al Thompson, have been brainstorming ideas this summer, both short-term wins and long-term strategies. So watch for an announcement about a town hall meeting on this critically important topic, where we will share these ideas with you and hear your thoughts and suggestions. These are issues that we can and will unite around. Now, back to the pandemic. Please consider this. The CDC now estimates that 40% of the people infected with COVID-19 are asymptomatic. Wearing masks can cut the number of cases by as much as 80% based on research models in this country and overseas. The CDC director said on July the 14th that if every American wore a mask, washed hands frequently, and practiced social distancing, the spread of the virus could be under control within just a month or 2 months. Well, if we just all did our part. Last week, the CDC predicted that 30,000 more deaths could occur over the next 3 weeks. And 1/3 of those cases confirmed COVID-19 in Portage County are in the age group of 20 to 29. Big box stores requiring face coverings include Walmart, Target, Costco, Apple stores, Best Buy, and Panera Bread. And just before this town hall started, we received word that Governor Evers has declared a health emergency and issued a statewide face covering order, which I certainly applaud. Over 40 local businesses in northern Wisconsin require or strongly recommend face coverings as well. I know for the most part I'm preaching to the choir, but perhaps you can use some of these talking points. I've asked UCM to develop a resource page where this information and more is readily available to faculty and staff. Now for our policy here at the university, it's really quite simple. Face coverings are now required on our campuses and our field stations. This applies indoors in public places, public spaces, including classrooms, laboratories, studios, and other instructional spaces, and outdoors when physical distancing is difficult to maintain. Limited exceptions to specialized academic instruction must be approved by the provost. And face covering is not required when working alone in an office, but must be worn when others are present. Face coverings are not required in residence hall rooms unless the students assigned to those rooms are joined by other students. Vice Chancellor Thompson will speak about this in just a few minutes. And we should all remember that face coverings is not a substitute for physical distancing. So what happens when a student refuses to wear a face covering in a class? Well, first, we are an educational institution, so there will be a campaign to educate students when they return in just a few weeks. The Provost's office has provided a statement to be included in every course syllabi. And I would ask that there be discussions in all of our classes about social responsibility. The Provost has provided direction in the form of a script for dealing with classroom situations. Our students are good students and they work hard. I think the vast majority will comply with this new requirement without question. But if you encounter a problem in class, you should inform your department chair and your dean, and certainly the dean of students. That office will intervene immediately. This university is going to support our faculty and our instructional academic staff in the classrooms, in the laboratories, in the studios, and in the field. The dean of students will look for solutions like moving the student to an online class, but I have made it very clear to the dean that if necessary, we will withdraw a student from a course. So please make it clear to your students that that you are not permitted to hold class unless everyone is wearing a face covering. Now, Vice Chancellor Thompson.
Thank you, Bernie, for your comments. I would like to echo that what Bernie has said, that our students are very valuable and good students and good people, and that they will do everything, I believe, to work with the system that we're putting in place. And that is that face covering is critical. We are also putting together welcome bags for all of our students that live on the campus, as well as students that live off the campus. Those bags will have a welcome note from me, and there will be a link to know and have face covering in the bag for them as well, so that they know how to properly put them on and how to socially distance themselves from others, especially in public. Let me tell you about the residence halls, though, in particular. We have it probably by far, and is that students are going to live on campus, and we got about 2,500 students that are going to live on campus, and in an environment that they have to share space. So under the guidelines we have set forth in the residence halls, all students will be wearing face coverings throughout the building, the dormitory or the residence hall building, throughout the building, except for when they're in their own individual room with their roommate, because that'll be their family unit, their home. And those two people will be able to, or four people if you're in the suites, not wear a mask unless they have guests or visitors coming, then they have to put their mask on. We also agree that as they walk down the hallway to go to the restroom or bathroom, to take a shower, and others, that they wear a mask as well, and to do that. And then we're also saying in the lobbies, we were reducing all the furniture so that there is not congregating areas for students. We would rather have them outside in open space, open air, and keeping social distance. These guidelines will be enforced, they're required, but we will do a lot of educational programs and putting signs up to educate our students and have a positive campaign to allow students to be actively involved and helping each other do the proper things of health and safety for all students. So now I'll turn it over to my colleague, Paul Hassler, who is the Director of Facility Services, to discuss the cleaning aspect and other parts of keeping our campus safe. Go ahead, Paul. Paul, you're on mute.
Paul, you have to unmute, Paul.
There you go.
Sorry, all. And thanks, Al. And good afternoon to everyone. As Chris stated, I've been asked to join today's town hall meeting to discuss cleaning and disinfecting practices taking place in preparation for the fall semester. Before I do so, I wanted to take a moment to thank all those who have been working so hard to prepare campus for fall operations. The network of support is immense. and far too large to mention individuals by name, but it's important to know that people from across campus have been tirelessly working to prepare for the fall semester. Those efforts have been amazing, and I'm humbled to be part of it. I can only say thank you for your commitment and for your dedication to campus. Regarding cleaning and disinfecting practices, I start by advising you that we have one of the most talented and progressive custodial operations in the UW system. Our custodial program supervisor is a certified trainer for ISSA, which is the International Sanitary Supply Association, which is the leading trade organization for the cleaning industry worldwide. As such, our entire custodial staff is certified by ISSA and has received comprehensive training on the latest and most effective practices for cleaning and disinfecting. So rest assured, you're in competent hands. With that said, let me share a few things that are being done to provide a clean and sanitary work environment and a clean and sanitary learning environment. First, let's discuss hand sanitizer. All students, staff, and faculty will be receiving a personal 2-ounce bottle of hand sanitizer prior to the start of the semester. The bottle is small and can be easily carried in a person's pocket, purse, or handbook. It is my expectation that recipients will carry this bottle with them while they're on campus and consider it as important as a cell phone or a laptop computer. Really, it's a don't leave home without it item. The campus will have 5 refilling stations where the bottles can be refilled for free at any time throughout the semester. When you enter buildings, you will find freestanding, touchless hand sanitizer dispensers at the main entry point of each building, along with various signage related to our COVID operations. There will also be hand sanitizer in a larger pump bottles available in the office cleaning kits. So speaking of the cleaning kit, let me talk a little bit about those kits in greater detail. All buildings are receiving multiple office and classroom cleaning kits. We're working with the primary building contacts to provide the necessary quantities. The concept for the kit is that it contains shared cleaning and disinfecting supplies so that department members can clean and disinfect their personal spaces at will. The custodial operation will continue to clean offices and suites once per week, but trash removal and cleaning desired between this time will be performed by the office occupants. The office cleaning kits will contain gloves, pump hand sanitizer, disposable face masks, CDC-approved sanitizing wipes, CDC-approved disinfecting spray, paper towels, and computer-friendly disinfecting wipes. The classroom kits will contain much of the same items: CDC-approved sanitizing wipes, CDC-approved disinfecting spray, paper towel, and computer-friendly disinfecting wipes. Each student will be expected to disinfect their surface that they plan to use prior to beginning the class. So therefore, they might disinfect their desktop, the chair arms, etc. The instructors may choose to disinfect their teaching station and any touch points they encounter prior to the beginning of class. Classrooms will be deep cleaned and disinfected twice per day by the custodial team. The process will include thorough disinfection of all touch points and surfaces, and one of the occurrences will include a CDC electrostatic disinfection. Much of you might know that as the Clorox 360. Although electrostatic disinfection is new to many custodial operations, Our custodial team has been deploying this practice for the last 3 years. Beyond classroom and offices, we must clean and disinfect hallways, stairwells, elevators, and restrooms. Restrooms will be deep cleaned no less than twice per day. And depending on the usage of the restroom, some may be cleaned more frequently. One of the cleaning occurrences will include electrostatic disinfection. Public area touch points will be disinfected multiple times throughout the day. This includes door handles, elevator buttons, stair railings, drinking fountains, etc. Hallway and stairwells will be regularly monitored and deep cleaned no less than once per week. Lastly, inspection is an important part of the entire cleaning process. To ensure the highest quality of cleaning and disinfecting is taking place, not only will our custodial supervisors perform their daily inspections, they'll be doing random ATP surface testing in order to ensure consistent and thorough sanitization practices are taking place. More information on the ATP process can be found on the Facility Services website. Our custodial supervisors will also be using a black light to assure general cleaning meets expectation. This has been a very brief summary of the cleaning and disinfecting practices planned for the fall semester. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact Facility Services at extension 4219, and we'll be happy to serve your needs. Thanks very much for allowing me this time to speak with you. And now I'd like to hand things over to Laura Bell.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you and your staff for all the work you've done and will continue to do. Before I dive into the numbers, I just wanted to also take a moment to thank everyone on all 3 UWSP campuses. You've played such an important role in these efforts, and with your support, enrollment operations has been able to focus on making data-driven decisions. And that's often meant pivoting quickly. And so your support has been crucial. For the purpose of this overview, I want to report first-year numbers and total enrollment numbers. And I want to focus on those 2 alone. First year, because of course, that's the biggest incoming group in terms of numbers. So we'll start there. The first year class on main campus is projected to have 1,657 students, and that's up 32% from last year, or 402 students. Marshfield is projected to have 89 students, which is up 4% from last year. And the Wausau first year class is projected to have 217 students, which is up 34% from last year. So the total first year class on all 3 campuses is expected to land somewhere around 1,963 students, which is up 31%, or 460 students compared to last year. Total enrollment, I first want to take a moment and remind everybody that on all 3 campuses, we've seen declining enrollment over the years. And more specifically on main campus, we've seen anywhere from a 6 to an 8% enrollment drop. Marshfield last year saw a 26% enrollment drop, and Wausau saw a 19% enrollment drop. For this coming fall, I'm very happy to report that we're not projecting any campus to be down in total enrollment. Having said that, we know COVID has disrupted the market in such a drastic way that it is uncertain to know what the coming weeks may bring.
Laura Bell, we just lost your audio. If you could push your...
Thank you. So for main campus total enrollment, we are anticipating 7,281 students, which is up 30 students from last year. Statistically, that's even. Total enrollment at Marshfield is projected to be 459, which is up 9% from last year. And Wausau is projecting to land somewhere around 632 students, which is up 10% from last year. So all three campuses, all student types combined, we are projecting around 8,372 students, which is up 2% from last year. Again, many unknowns in the coming weeks, but we appreciate all of your help for both retention and recruitment. And we know student safety is at the core of that. With that, I'd like to turn things back over to Vice Chancellor Richards to introduce the other panelists.
All right, well, thank you, Laura. And also Al, Paul, and Bernie, thank you for your comments. Much appreciated. Now we will take your questions at this point. Joining us on the panel to address those questions are Dr. Greg Summers, the Provost, Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, also Vice Chancellor for Business Affairs and our Chief Financial Officer, Fatima Gandhi, Dr. Helen Luce, the Director of Student Health Services, Dr. Gretel Stock, Dean of University College, Dr. Troy Seppelt, the Dean of Students, our Chief Human Resources Officer, Dr. Eric Ressler, and our Athletic Director, Dr. Brad Duckworth. And that, my friends, a lot of doctors right there on this panel. That's even before we include Al and Bernie, Laura, so we have the doctors covered for you here. In any case, to submit a question, you can please refer to the web page address that's noted over my shoulder. We will address as many questions as we can, given the time frame we have to work in. Those questions we don't get to address during the town hall, we will answer them on the COVID-19 webpage. Okay, the first question, as they say in College Bowl, the toss-up question, is going to go to Eric Ressler. This is a little bit lengthy of a question, Eric, so hang with me here. Can you provide additional guidance on what expectations are for offices to be open in the fall? Will all departments be required to have staff on campus in some capacity? The questioner continues, I know each department has been asking to complete the return to work planning document. How will faculty, staff, and students know which offices are open, which are open only by appointment, or which are closed? Eric?
Thank you, Chris. You changed the order on me, but that's all right. If your customers, whether they're students, staff, administration, or public, need to physically interact with you to transact business, or you have employees that need to access physical workspace to successfully do their work, supervisors will need to create a work plan for that. Last night, I sent a follow-up to the supervisors and their administrative support with a few more tips. In that, at the request of our university leaders, I included advice to post physical office hours, methods of conducting business, such as the face-to-face by appointment only or virtual meetings, on their website and the physical door to their offices. HR will also be creating a directory of university services that will be available to students and staff and the public. Once that is compiled, we will ask that all updates are shared with us when you change your plan. Most importantly, we've asked those units to communicate with their customers and their stakeholders and ensure that they were informed on how they're going to be conducting business with that office or unit. There will be open offices, physical services taking place, but it is also okay for us to communicate with our customers on how we prefer to transact our business, meet, and share information in ways that will reduce the opportunity for viral spread. Everything that we do to limit the spread is a worthwhile service to one another, to our students that we value very much as well.
All right, thank you, Eric. We appreciate that. Next question comes for Provost Summers. Greg, what are the minimum technology features that we can expect in each of the rooms where classes are scheduled? For example, will all large rooms have microphones, or will all instructors be able to check out microphones? Will there be at least a screen, computer, and document camera? Greg?
So, Chris, the answer to those questions is basically yes. All of the classrooms should have the standard equipment that folks have come to expect in our instructional spaces. So a computer, a projector, a document camera, and microphones. I was just speaking with Peter Zuga yesterday from IT and talking about how many of those microphones we've ordered and suggesting that we order more. We are concerned with the face coverings that we're going to be all wearing and the different kinds and styles and how that may obstruct people's ability to speak and students' ability to hear. So we're going to try to make sure that we have adequate supplies of microphones and audio that is set up in each classroom so that the students not only physically present can hear, but the sound will be wired so that students listening in remotely can hear. So our spaces, including those that we're newly setting up in the DUC and the MAC and DeBow, should all be outfitted with the kinds of standard equipment that folks have come to expect.
All right. Okay, thank you, Greg. The next question is one that was addressed in the initial segment. The Chancellor alluded to this, but maybe there are additional things that Alan Troy would like to emphasize here. The question we have is, what will happen if a student refuses to wear a mask? Now, I don't know, Bernie, if you want to jump in here too, or Al or Troy, if you want to add to anything that was said in the first segment of the town hall.
Let's let Troy talk about the disciplinary process.
Thank you, Chancellor. Thank you, Chris. Hi, everybody. I would echo where the Chancellor started, which is first and foremost, we are an educational institution. So yes, our 18 to 20, 30, 40-year-old students are coming to us at a very interesting time to be a student. But we all play a role in role modeling good, appropriate adulty behavior. So for our own employee face covering practices, physical distancing practices, will all help our students understand what we're trying to accomplish. And that, of course, is delivery of excellent education and engagement at UW-Stevens Point. So as the Chancellor mentioned, we have already started communicating with our students, both new and returning, about the requirements for face coverings, about the physical distancing, the structures in residence halls. I had a meeting with residential living this morning to talk through their process in the residence halls. So if a student deliberately chooses to not wear a face covering, refuses a request from our faculty, other staff, and other students, we of course would want to engage first in the educational conversation that we all aim to have with our students. And so there will be some private conversations had first. Hopefully that will allow the student to understand the need for this and care for each other and care for themselves, care for all of us at the university. If for whatever reason the student still chooses not to abide by our campus policy about face coverings and other guidance, to include the signage we posted around campus, for example, we would ask the faculty and staff to refer that student to us here in the Dean of Students office. We have an online form for submitting incident reports. It includes a drop-down option for signifying that it is a COVID-related policy concern. And then we will, along with our colleagues in residential living, the hall directors, manage those conversations and help our students, again, understand why it is A, a requirement, and B, the importance to us as an entire community to follow along with the guidance. For our instructional staff, it's important to know, as the Chancellor has said and the Provost and I have talked about, our goal, of course, is to ensure access to education at every turn. So if something happens in a classroom where a student, after a time or two of conversation on the same moment, is still unwilling to wear a face covering and faculty need to dismiss the class for that meeting, we will restrict their access to that class and that facility or that classroom until we're able to have this conversation with a member of my staff or myself. Our goal is to, of course, to turn that around quickly. If we're able to get the student to understand, commit to wearing a face covering and abiding by university policies, we want them back in the classroom or in their educational experience as quickly as we possibly can. And if we're not able to get there for the in-person portion of classes, the question will be, in consultation with the faculty in the provost office, is it reasonable to move the student into an online section of that class? So again, we do what we can to hold the student accountable and not interrupt their access to their education.
Bernie, Hal, do you want to add anything?
I'll just underscore what the dean is saying here. We ask faculty to have a private conversation. If you have to take a recess for 5 minutes from class, to have a private conversation with the student. But if the student continues to refuse, then you will have no choice but to dismiss class for that day and immediately be in touch with the Dean of Students office, and we will restrict that student from that class. If we have to bar them from the building or whatever we have to do, we will do that while we initiate the disciplinary process in Chapter 17 in the process of withdrawing them from the course.
I agree with Bernie and Troy, what they just said. We are all in this together. So communication lines are critical, keeping everybody informed. And for the faculty who's feeling uncertain what's happening next, I know Troy and his staff will be communicating back to that faculty member so they fully know what's happening. So our goal is to keep everybody involved and keeping everybody knowing what we're doing next, including the student who is possibly refusing or is refusing wearing their face covering.
All right. Anyone have any comments about Troy wearing a tie in the middle of summer? Okay.
We're going to get into
I don't know, Chris. He's kind of making me look bad, so I'm going to go home now. Oh, I am at home. Sorry.
All right. Thank you, fellas, for your response to that question. The next one is for Vice Chancellor Gandhi. Pratima, how much do you anticipate UWSP will have to cut from its overall budget? The Chancellor may want to jump in on this one too. Are we still anticipating that there will be layoffs in addition to furloughs? And also, Eric, you may want to jump in on that part of the question.
Thank you, Chris. Please allow me to start. We are currently reviewing our FY21 budget in light of the state budget lapse that the governor had announced recently. And then prior to that, system had indicated that we would have a potential state budget lapse. So we are reviewing our budget and taking a look at that. So in terms of the state budget lapse, the governor has indicated approximately a 7.4, 7.5% state lapse. That would equate to approximately a $3.3 million state lapse for us. Now, however, as I had indicated, the state previously, or the system previously had indicated that we should plan for about a 10% state lapse. And if that's the case, it could be anywhere from 7.5% to 10%. So we're looking at about 3.3 million to about 4.3 million on the state side. Then we have to take a look at our enrollment projections and how our enrollment will be for the fall. And as Laura had indicated, our enrollment numbers are staying pretty steady. Even then, if you remember, prior to the COVID situation, we were anticipating we had a plan for some enrollment reductions overall. That this was before the COVID situation, which we were planning for those reductions. So we are planning for those, and then we may have to plan for any differences in the enrollment situation in the fall. So overall, those are the two components. And then on top of that, we'll have to, of course, as we look at our enrollment and the tuition, we also have the program revenues, the student dining and housing. So there's different components. So I can't really give you an overall figure as of right now because things are still fluid. We're still looking at different areas and still looking at those different enrollment projections. So in terms of the state, we do know it will be somewhere around 3.3 to 4.3 at this point in time. Now, please remember that the state revenues have not been all accounted for. So once that all occurs here going into the fall, there may be additional state lapses or state cuts. We just don't know. So what we're doing is each of the divisions have been asked to look at their budgets, look at least to start taking a look at those budgets and planning out for FY21 for the state lap, the state budget lapse and potential enrollments. And then I think the follow-up question is, are we still anticipating layoffs
Correct.
in addition to furloughs? Okay, as you know, there was a notice that went out concerning intermittent furloughs. We had previously had furloughs up through August to help with some of the budget situation. We will be doing, we will have to continue with some intermittent furloughs for the academic year, which will be September 1st through June 30th, 2021. Now, these intermittent furloughs will help with some of the state budget lapse reductions that we have to take. It, of course, will not cover everything, but it will help with some of that. And in terms of additional layoffs or consecutive furloughs or even work share programs, it's going to depend on the different divisions and different areas and their revenue sources and how those areas will be able to address the budget reductions or lapses that we may have to deal with. So that kind of depends on each of the different divisions at this point in time.
And
yes.
The email you were referring to is the one that went out just prior to our town hall today. I know a lot of people might not be on their email. If they haven't seen it yet, it will be in your email queue if you want to refer to it after the town hall is complete. Before we move on to the next question, Eric, do you want to add anything at all on the subject of layoffs and furloughs?
I think Pratima did a fantastic job on that, and the reality is we want to ensure that we are being as responsible as we can and as responsible as we can be as well. We're talking about people and we're talking about careers, and we don't want to do anything that's going to endanger folks. But we do have to make sure that the institution is able to continue. That's why we're being very creative with things like the work share program. And ensuring that we have tools that are less conventional that we can pull out and use for these circumstances. But where work has gone away, the chance of a layoff is certainly there.
Chris, I would add to that
sure.
as well, that as we go online after Thanksgiving and as the winter term is online as well, we will have a couple of months there where some of our colleagues will not have work to do on campus. And they're in positions where they can't not work from home. And so there's certainly a possibility of some consecutive day furloughs as we had in the summer for pretty much the same reason.
All right, thank you all. Next question is for Dean Stock. Gretel, please discuss the plan for the Tutoring and Learning Center. Will this service be available? And if so, will tutoring take place virtually or face-to-face, one-on-one?
Thank you, Chris, and thanks for that question. What I'm going to say is true for not only the Tutoring Learning Center services, but all of the student and faculty-facing services within University College and on our branch campuses. So we're taking the stance this year of all one-on-one appointments for tutoring, advising, consultating with any of our services will be done virtually. We want to make sure that we are limiting the in-person contact that we have with individuals while giving specific one-on-one services in the best way possible. We are also open and staffed in all of our buildings, in Albertson Hall, in the solution centers, and in the libraries in Wausau and Marshfield. So if someone needs help in person, we will have people there who are ready to help. That includes tutoring learning, that includes all of our other areas. We are also open to help people with their virtual class participation. So if someone has an issue where they need a place to come and take a virtual class, our facilities and our staff are available to make sure that there's a spot that they can come and get that kind of service. So everyone will be able to access those services virtually. We'll have some help in person, and we're here for you.
Okay, Gretel, thank you very much. Next question is for Provost Summers. Greg, can you talk about what will happen when faculty become sick? How will their courses be handled if they are unable to teach? Will it be up to each department or the instructor?
So thank you, Chris. That's obviously a question that's on all of our minds now. And I guess I'd start by reminding folks that, even pre-pandemic, this was a question that would come up periodically in given semesters when faculty would fall ill. for one reason or another. We obviously have some different issues at stake, this semester with the COVID pandemic. There's a couple of ways, I guess a couple of layers that we need to think about answering that question. One of the reasons that we asked all faculty members to hopefully plan online alternatives for each of their in-person courses was not just because students may fall ill or have to quarantine if they're diagnosed or they're in close contact, but because faculty members may have to do that as well. We're all filling out the health screening form each day when we're going to come to campus. So if faculty members have a sore throat or they're feeling feverish, they should not be coming to class, regardless of the situation, regardless of what the topic is going to be that day. They need to stay home and keep themselves safe and keep the campus from any kind of exposures to whatever might be afflicting them. So hopefully they will have those online alternatives available that they can fall back on. They can let their class know that they can't come to campus that day, and things will be virtual. If somebody does become sick in a way that they can't even participate online, then that's where I think each department needs to be considering that possibility for their courses, needs to be talking about colleague coverage. Where colleague coverage is not possible, they're going to have sort of a communication plan for engaging students and letting them know that there may be a hiatus for a brief time in the class and that they'll try to make up things later. I think each department needs to be wrestling with those kinds of conversations now, and each instructor talking to their colleagues and their chairs about how to plan for that eventuality.
All right, thank you, Greg. The next question, we'll start with Eric Ressler on it initially, but the other vice chancellors might also want to chime in if they have opinions on the subject. The question for Eric initially, once all students move to virtual learning after the Thanksgiving break, will all faculty and staff be required to work from home as well? So we'll start with you, Eric.
You bet. Thank you, Chris. I don't want to characterize the decision to work remotely as an HR decision. However, HR is providing guidance, and we would advise the supervisors to work with their vice chancellors on what that work plan is going to look like after Thanksgiving. The units serve their students in internal customers with some very and some external customers. Chancellor Patterson has made it clear that those who can successfully work remotely while also serving the needs of the department without compromising our mission or the service delivery should continue to do so. And it's my hope that we would continue under those directions when the face-to-face classes begin, and as well as when we have the Thanksgiving break and classes going virtual at that point. So let's keep in mind, there will be fewer people on campus at those times, so the risk factors also decrease as well. So that's an advantage that we want to play into.
Eric,
okay.
I would add to that, when we go online at Thanksgiving through the winter term, the more we can reduce the population on campus, the less opportunity there is for transmission of the virus. So it's about reducing the density on campus.
Any other vice chancellors want to offer any thoughts, perhaps even specific to your division? All right, if there's not any additional thoughts on that question, we'll move on to the next one. And I'll direct it at Vice Chancellor Thompson. Al, how many students will be living in the dorms this fall? And what is the percentage compared to previous years?
Well, traditionally, around this time of year, we have about 2,900 students that live in the residence hall. Right now, based on the numbers we're looking at 2,450. And that number is changing. I think Laura Bell talked about it earlier. Because of COVID-19, we've had some really strong entering class coming in, and we got some good numbers overall. But students and their families are making decisions of, do I need to live on campus? Can I live at home? Based on class schedules and based on how they cannot be on campus because of COVID-19. So the numbers are shifting, and it's not unusual. We've seen that across the state. Residential halls are having some reductions because of COVID-19.
So Al, to kind of paraphrase your answer, we have a larger first year class than we've had recently, but we may be seeing more commuters because of the health situation. People would rather live at home or off campus.
Yeah, mainly living at home is what I'm picking up so far.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Paul Hassler is next in the box. Paul, how often will classrooms and offices be cleaned? Now, I think you touched on that during your comments, but you might want to do some amplifying on that. The question continues, will we need to request extra cleanings if different staff members come into the office each day? I don't think you touched on that second part, but maybe you'd like to roll that into your answer.
Sure. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, the classrooms, as we mentioned, classrooms will be cleaned twice per day. And one of those times will be done with the Clorox 360 application, which is the electrostatic application. And offices will be cleaned, deep cleaned once per week. And then we are asking that you use the sanitizing kits, the cleaning kits, to clean the office areas, sanitize your personal office areas as you see fit. So if there is an exchange of folks coming in and out of an office, we would ask that you use the cleaning kit and the appropriate disinfecting product and disinfect the area between those two folks. Chris, that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Paul.
You bet.
Moving along, the next question is for Dr. Luce, the only doctor on the panel who's allowed to write prescriptions. Helen, upon arrival on campus, are students going to be tested for COVID-19 and quarantined until the results are returned? Other colleges around the country are implementing this process as a way to be proactive in preventing a campus outbreak. Helen?
Yes, thank you for that question. This has been a moving target so far. I will say that there's been different plans that have come and gone through the summer regarding testing. I will just cover what our plan currently is for testing on campus, then I can go into a little bit about some of the other ideas that are out there. So currently on campus, we have the capability in student health to test any symptomatic student and close contacts. We can do that starting now. We have been able to. We do have some students who are currently on campus for summer field experience and for the master's AT program. We have not had any need at this point yet to use this, but we do have the capability, and that will also be our capability in fall. So we are encouraging any students who have COVID symptoms or have been named as a close contact of a positive case to contact student health, and we will test them. After they are tested, the guidance is actually to self-isolate. So I'm going to spend one quick minute here because I think sometimes these two terms get interchanged and are easily confused. So quarantine, the term quarantine is specifically for individuals who are not ill. They do not have any symptoms. So this typically is going to be someone who is named as a close contact of a positive case. Those individuals will need to be in quarantine. Again, they are not sick. So we will have the capability to test them. So potentially they could get out of quarantine. But that is, I just want to make that distinction. Isolation is the term we use for individuals who are sick, who are symptomatic. So they are having symptoms of COVID and are being tested. So after we test them, the individual needs to be in isolation until we have test results back. If the test comes back negative, they are released from isolation, can go back to just normal preventive measures that we are all encouraged to follow anyway and monitoring for symptoms, but they are released from isolation at that point. If their test comes back positive, then that will be, they will need to stay in isolation. Currently, those guidelines were just updated last week. That will be 10 days that they will have to stay in isolation and at least 24 hours without a fever or other symptoms. That will also be monitored not just by student health, but by our local public health officials at that point as well. Because COVID-19 is a reportable disease, public health is notified of this when there's a positive case. So they will be contacting the individual, and I'll go a little bit off the topic of this question, but we will be working in concert with them in terms of contact tracing to try to identify close contacts of a positive case on campus to try to help kind of capture that before we have further spread through our campus. I think does that answer?
I think it does. The one thing that you didn't touch on
yes.
that I'm not sure you're probably the best person, but there's a related question about, will UWSP be publicizing its COVID cases so faculty and staff can stay informed? And maybe, Bernie, maybe that's one that you want to tackle.
Can I go back? I know I didn't answer the original part of the question as well, was whether we were going to test students when they arrived at campus. So this is something that is, I don't want to ignore that part of the question because I know that's an important question to answer.
Okay.
Just so that I get that out there. That answer is still a little bit in flux. There is a directive or a recommendation from system that we would be looking at doing that type of testing for students in our residence halls. So it would not be all enrolled students for UWSP, but it would be students who are living in our residence halls. The capability of doing that is still what we're trying to figure out how to make that happen. We'll be updating people as the whole campus as we have more information to be able to share on that, but know that we are doing everything we can to keep people as safe as possible.
And then on the publicizing part of that, Bernie, do you want to comment?
Sure, Chris, thank you. We will not be certainly publishing a list of positive cases. That would be inappropriate, and we won't do that, nor will we be saying anything that would lead to the identification of an individual. However, contact tracing is in place to notify individuals who are in close contact. So if you are in close contact with a colleague, you will get word from that through the county health department, and that's the purpose of the contact tracing. So if you don't hear from the county health department, then you should not be concerned about being in close contact with anybody that might be test positive on campus.
As long as you're in the doc here, Bernie, and speaking of the doc, Helen, how many positive cases are required until a shutdown is implemented? I'm assuming that's the shutdown of our campus. Is health services prepared or equipped to handle an outbreak on campus?
I'll begin, Chris. There's not a set number of cases. At least we have not set that in our planning process because there's several factors that would come into play. We have developed a dashboard that monitors several criteria, including the number of cases, including the percent of positive cases, including hospital beds available, what's happening in the community. And all of those would come together to inform a decision to go on fully online. But we've also been informed by system that will not be a decision totally made at the local level, at the campus level. It will be a system-wide conversation, and UW System and President Thompson will have a clear voice in those kinds of decisions in the future.
And that's Tommy Thompson, not Al Thompson. He's not been promoted to president of the system. Okay, I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
Helen, did you want to speak to the second part of that question about health services being prepared and equipped to handle an outbreak on campus?
Sure. I'll start with a definition again. So outbreak, the definition for an outbreak is still up for debate from our state health department, DHS. They are currently saying that an outbreak in a long-term care facility or a jail or other places where there's congregant living would be one case within that facility. I have not gotten a clear answer, nor has anyone else from the university or the whole system when we've asked on if that's going to apply for universities as well. So that will be determined, because one case to me, of course, student health is prepared to manage that. And we are going to see that at some point this fall. In terms of a larger number of cases on campus, we have resources to do some testing, but we would not be able to do a mass testing event. So for that situation, we are looking right now, we're finalizing a partnership with Marshfield Clinic to help in terms of some of our lab testing. They have also said that they would work with us if we would have a need for mass testing, and so has our local public health department. So we do have two strong local partners that we would have support from in the event that we would need to do mass testing, meaning hundreds of tests in a short period of time.
Looking at the clock, I see we're getting very short on time. We promised 1 hour. There are many questions yet to get to. And as I mentioned earlier, we do intend to answer all of the questions via the website, the ones that we can't get to. But we do have time for one more question. Given Al's recent promotion to president of the system, I'm assuming that's what you meant when you said President Thompson, Bernie. Al, how will students get the on-campus experience in housing, student activities, and dining? How much of the experience, the student experience, will be actually face-to-face? What can we do, or what are we going to do to make sure the students have a university experience?
By far, we will use outside. While the weather is nice, we're going to use the outside areas, grass areas, and lawns and recreational fields to have activities on those fields to have students relax and do various things that they've been used to do every fall until the weather gets cold. Then at that point, everything is going to have to be virtual. We will build in virtual aspects anyway for students to be actively engaged through residential living, as well as through campus activities and student engagement office. We will have still student organizational meetings. And real quick, because the other person's on the line, athletics, I'll let Brad quickly talk about that as well. Thank you.
Brad?
Thanks, Al. And right now, as many of you have seen, the chancellors within our conference voted to suspend fall competitions, and we are working on a plan locally that would continue the opportunity for those student athletes to be practicing, be engaged in athletics in different ways through leadership opportunities that we typically do anyway. We also have not put a stop on the winter sport and spring sports seasons at this point. So when our students return, which we will not return any students prior to the start of camp or classes, which we typically do. But when our student athletes return like they do normally, we will begin practicing or trying to begin practicing, and then certainly our normal student athlete engagement opportunities. So we're working on a plan with Vice Chancellor Thompson, Chancellor Patterson, Dr. Luce, NCAA Sports Science Institute, and Marshfield Clinic to come up with a safe way for our student athletes to begin practice. So more to come on that as we get closer to the start of the school year.
All right. Thank you, Brad. I appreciate that. And we really do appreciate all of the terrific questions that we got both during the session and prior to the session. Thank you, all of those who submitted these questions. And we're very sorry that we're not able to address them all during the town hall, but they will all be addressed. The ones we didn't get to during the town hall, they'll be addressed in writing. So as we wrap up, I'm going to give the last word to Chancellor Patterson. Bernie, you want to leave us with some words of wisdom?
Yeah, well, thank you, Chris, and thank you for being our moderator this afternoon. I want to just conclude by saying a big thank you and congratulations to this campus. The report you heard from Laura a few minutes ago about our incoming freshman class is unbelievable. It is just phenomenal. All bets are off about the pandemic and how many students we'll have in the seats when September the 2nd comes. But whatever that number is, the numbers you heard today were nothing short of a miracle, given where this campus has been over the last 5 years. And so that staff and admissions and all across the campus, the academic departments across campus have been working with admissions hand in hand, have done a phenomenal job. Our colleagues over in student health, oh my gosh. And Helen, thank you for your continued leadership and your expertise. Fantastic work that you guys are doing over there and continue to do literally on the front lines. Our EOC still meets regularly. They have their hands full. They're doing a lot, but in the long run here, it's the faculty and the staff of this university that make me so proud. You continue to deliver, you continue to prepare, you continue to persevere, you continue to serve our students. And the preparation that you've done for this fall semester has been unmeasurable. It's going to be a challenge. We all know that. And we're all kind of on the edge of our seat. And we're right there with you. But what you're doing to get us ready is nothing short of well, we haven't done anything like this in the history of this university. What can I say? Other than how much I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you, Chris.
All right, and thank you to all the panelists today and to all those who submitted questions. That will wrap up the town hall, the third one, with more to come as the situation develops. Thank you all for your time today. Goodbye.